frame ones that are very boring. These are ones I like because they're funky. And
very
people
fun.
like them, you know.
And look at, we're so color coordinated, even to your glasses. So there you go. I feel underdressed that I don't have red glasses.
You look way overdressed to me. I don't have a hat.
Well, welcome to GoingSoloMedia.com. This is Let's Talk About Dating with Barry and Christine. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. Nice hat.
Thank you. I know. I got up this morning thinking, I'm going to wear a red hat today. What am I going to wear to go with it? That was the whole, it started with my hat. Isn't that funny?
Not surprised, though.
And then there you were in a red shirt, and we hadn't even talked.
No. Yeah, we just had that feeling of like connection, like, what color? Oh, I know what Christine's going to do. Yeah.
We're both in a good red mood today.
Yes, we are.
So today we're talking about, why do we find bad behavior enticing? Why does it entice us? I know. And it's so funny. You know, you'll hear people either say, gosh, I really like bad guys, bad boys, or, oh, I would never want to date a bad boy. And yet they have, because I'll ask them, well, so have you never? Well, yeah. And why? So that is so the question of this hour today is why? Why are we attracted to bad behavior? Why is it enticing? What's the attraction? What's the extra zhuzh as that makes us say, oh yeah, I want that? And it was interesting. I was talking to somebody the other day, and she had a Slytherin Harry Potter shirt on. And I said, oh, why are you wearing that? She goes, because I like Draco, or whatever the bad boy is that's always picking on Larry and Harry. Yeah. And I was like,
Harry Potter. I read the books.
You did?
Yeah.
So what's his name?
Draco Malfoy.
Draco, yes, Malfoy. And I said, see, there it is. And I said, so why? Why is he your favorite? And she said, because he goes for what he wants and he tells people how it is. And I'm like, but he's always against other people, and he's always getting other people in trouble and hurting other people. And she said, well, yeah, there's that.
I was going to say, using technical terms, using zhuzh, and like bringing out the big guns for that one.
Oh, I know. Thank you. From Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. It was the first time I ever heard that word.
Oh, okay. I was wondering. But the thing is also, I want to flip the script the other way too, because I don't have research on this, but I'm sure it's like there are more women looking for guys that are bad boys than there are men looking for women who are bad girls.
Yeah.
There may be a difference, maybe the same spin. I'm curious. I mean, we'll explore as we go through, but I have my own thoughts about how, like, what certain women present that men are attracted to that makes them bad girls or bad women, so to speak. So
I did think about that as this was approaching, about, I'm really going to be extra interested in Barry's point of view about how this is different for men, because I imagine it really will be different. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I also was thinking a lot about, where did the bad boy term come from? And, you know, I was thinking about the movie Grease and James Dean kind of movies with the smoldering look and the leather jacket and the hair greasy, and they had fast cars or motorcycles, and they had gangs, you know, groups of people around them, whether they were a gang or not. And the women were just throwing themselves at them.
Right.
And what is the attraction? What is the attraction? Maybe because we don't feel safe being daring, so we want to be with somebody that's daring. We can think they're daring, or we think that we'll, like in the bodice ripping covers of those romance novels, that they'll overpower us, you know, in a way that we might do something sexually that we might not do or think of on our own, but it's okay because we're doing it with a bad boy. It's made my mind just go off on all these interesting directions that I don't always think about all of it in one chunk.
Well, we'll get into this deeper, but I'm going to say that my understanding of this, of the bad boy in particular, is the bad boy exhibits all the things that are daring and risque that most women wouldn't admit to being willing to have fun with. So is that daring, that excitement, that enticing across the line into the darkness, so to speak?
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, in the paradigm, in the very dualistic sort of framework, there's the bad boy and then the nice guy.
Yeah.
And the nice guy is not particularly attractive to a lot of women because he's weak. I've learned, thankfully, over the years, that I used to be a nice guy a lot, that they didn't have to be a bad boy to switch, but there's actually a third point. But it's like most people live in the didactic perspective, like bad boy, nice guy, that's all there is. So, like, well, you go with the bad boy to have fun, then you go settle down with a nice guy who's going to be fine.
Yes.
And so it's that sort of dance between the two that all women do deal with. And I think, just to flip the script for a moment, going back to the men attracted to women, it feels like for me what attracts, because a bad girl, so to speak, is all about the sex. It's sexual, it's enticing, it's seduction, it's all that energy. Whereas for a lot of women, I think, attracted to bad boys, it's not necessarily about sex. It may be the ultimate drive behind everything, but a lot of it's behavioral and it's challenging and it's all these things that are outside the framework of comfort. So I think it's not an equal and opposite thing where bad boys and bad girls are the same. I think they're very different in some ways. The ultimate goal, of course, is the heightened sexual experience, perhaps. But the portrayal and the expressions of these two, what's the one looking for? Models of society. Are not necessarily equating. So we'll explore this. It's fun.
Yeah, I so think that's a really good point. Of this is one of the variety of ways that men and women are so different in our perception of bad and our reason for wanting to have it in our life and what it feeds for us, what we feel lacking in that we would want that to be in our life. And I was thinking back about, you know, like in the 50s, the TV shows and they were good guys, but they were solid. You know, they had good jobs and they were good fathers and they were good husbands and they were very masculine. They didn't seem, I really thought about the men then. They seemed very masculine, certainly not bad boy masculine. And women were very happy to marry them. And then the 60s happened with, you know, sex, love, and rock and roll, and the feminist movement that moved into the 70s of, well, what we really want is that, but we want them to feel their feelings. We want them to sit and listen to our feelings for hours. And we want them to cry at movies. And we want them to explore all their inner thoughts. And when they found men like that, they were like, well, that's not very masculine. So then the only option, as you said, that we think there's only two options is to now go to the guy that's tough and rugged and wouldn't imagine ever saying anything about his feelings and, you know, is all about you get over it and I'll have wild sex with you to have you feel better. You know, it's so like totally like 180 degrees. It couldn't be more opposite. And it turned out that's not what we really wanted, which is how the poor nice guy ended up being at the bottom of the list of what women wanted. They wanted them as friends. We're happy to be friends with you.
Many years worth of that experience. I know that one well.
Oh, and it's very frustrating for men because you don't know why.
But the thing is also, for the bad boys, there was such a selfishness about them because, as far as my memory serves, when I knew those guys, is they were users. So basically, the women wouldn't get satisfied. The men would get. They would get the bad boy would satisfy himself, but the woman would feel like she was used and thrown and cast aside, and that was sexy for them. Which to me was like, really? I mean, the things it comes down to is the fantasy more than the reality.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Something about the illusion of that, because I don't think the experience necessarily was exactly what they were looking for. The women, though.
No. And I think they weren't really clear what they were looking for. I think the most clear thing any of us said then was we wanted something different. We just knew we wanted something different, but we didn't know what was good, what would be good for us, what would be healthy for us. And as much as you say that they were selfish and took advantage. The other thing that happened was that's when we really gave way more than we were getting back. In the other relationship back in the 50s, compared to now, yes, women were not equal, certainly not in the business world.
Right.
And I think women felt very appreciated for making dinner and raising the children and doing the house stuff. I think they felt generally pretty satisfied, and the husband was appreciative of that in that context, if we just look back at the 50s. And if you can't pick it up and move it to now, it wouldn't fit. But
True.
I think we forgot, how do we make sure we're getting back? How do we still feel satisfied? Because we went through that phase where it was just outgoing. There was just this funnel, and we were not getting anything back when we went through that phase of wanting bad boys. There was nothing back for us, except we had bragging rights that we were with him, but then we got cast off for the next cutest person.
There was so much, wrong with the bad boys, but it was the escapism. There was something. There was a titillation. That's why the title is "Why Bad Behavior Entices," because the enticement is what it comes down to. It's that excitement of the forbidden fruit type energy.
Yeah,
is what drew so many women in, because a lot of women who were drawn into that, and I don't think as much now as it used to be, was in fact because of that. Because so many of those women back then were the housewives, the homemakers, and so they had such a drudgery at times experience, and the men who were the breadwinners, the men of the house, or that old languaging, weren't taking care of their sexual needs necessarily to the way they wanted to, because most men at that time so didn't have a clue that the women were desperate for some sort of soul connection that was more sexually satisfying than they ever had at home.
Yeah,
I think one of the bad boys who got birthed around that time is because these were the bachelors who never got married or settled down. Because I know a couple of guys who are probably in their 60s still doing it. It wasn't a young guy's game only, but it was kind of like it was almost an archetype of like the leather jacket and the white T-shirt, sort of back, the Fonz back in Happy Days. It was that sort of character, even though the Fonz wasn't really that character, but that was the model, the image. And same as it said it in like, was it? I don't know, it was Rizzo, or which one was which was the bad boy really in that movie? Because the thing is, like, I think in that movie, there was an evolution. Like Rizzo was, no, hang on, Rizzo was the girl, not the guy. My name's confused. Damn. Okay, I'm switching.
Danny Zuko was John Travolta.
Right, but it was his psychic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so bottom line is that even though in the movie he was the lead character, he wasn't such a bad boy, really. I think some of the other guys in his crew were more bad than he was, to a degree.
Yeah.
More greasy, more leather, more like dark energy sort of thing,
Yeah.
The thing is and we'll talk about it more later in the show, but about what really is needed nowadays. Because I think in a lot of ways the bad boys' time has come and gone.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's still a temptation, because there's a need for a lot of women that isn't being satisfied the way that they deserve it to be. I'll put it that way.
Yes.
So, and then switching again back to the way, just to include this side of the thing with the bad women, so to speak, or the bad girls, is I think for a lot of men, we have the fantasy that we want to be a woman who can be wild and crazy, as well as everything else.
Yeah.
But I think in a lot of ways, what it is that for women, I suspect, and it may be accurate in this, but women have more range to choose from in their expression, where we can, as men, can get that spectrum within one woman more easily than a woman can get that all in one man, perhaps.
That's an interesting thought.
And I think we can talk about how men can expand to include that for themselves, because I'd like to think that women would really like to have a man who can include the bad boy energy, but still be loyal and monogamous and everything else they want in the relationship too.
Well, isn't it funny how you hear men say, they want Madonna out in the world, and they want the Madonna, like religious, but then they want the other kind of Madonna in the bedroom. So
something about was it something about something in the streets and something in between the sheets. There's a song lyric about that somewhere. Yeah. And
I don't think women have ever had that clear cut thing, because we feel that we need so much more pieces, so many more elements, where it's not that you don't, as men, want a variety of things to make us up, to fall in love with us. You don't have as big a list. You don't have as big a requirements. You're not as rigid as us. You just aren't. You're much more flexible about it. I mean, really, we feed you, we make love with you, we tell you we think you're terrific, and you're like, I'm happy now.
Yeah.
Which is lovely. It's lovely.
So you're saying we're easier to please than you are.
Much easier. Oh my goodness gracious.
So
Yes.
I would actually agree with, yes.
Yeah. And much more forgiving.
Mhm.
When we're a pain in the ass. You know, you don't bring it up 6 months later when we did something crazy 6 months ago.
Well, the thing is let's just be clear about it. Women have much better memories than men do. We don't remember that part.
You forgot.
we cannot worry about it. You're the ones who remember.
It's a benefit that you forget. We don't forget anything. We remember everything. We tell you over and over.
Absolutely.
So that's such a good foundation for this conversation, is like, what, as a man and a woman, what do you really need to have a fulfilling relationship? And it's interesting because there was somebody posted something on Facebook she's in a really happy relationship, but she said, and I thought of this subject that we were talking about, when she first started dating after her husband died, she wanted companionship. She wanted somebody she'd see a couple times a week. She wanted somebody that, there'd be great sex, and then they'd go home. And she said, I was really fooling myself. I really believed it, truly. She says, but now that I have this close, intimate, loving relationship where we're with each other all the time and sharing and, including our family and our friends, she goes, it's really what I wanted, and I wasn't even acknowledging it. So if you limit what you're saying, that's the thing that I was to tie this all up, then you're going to get the limitation, and then you're going to be, well, that's not what I want. So you need to get even more clear, both men and women, what do you want? And you might not know right away, and you and I know the right questions to help them get even deeper about what they really need and want.
Yeah.
And that when they practice, which is what dating is all about, you're like, oh, I like that. Oh, they don't have that. I'd really need that. And to pay attention to that and not get caught up in the sexual chemistry thing that sends us off the deep end into the hormone fog. And then we're really not satisfied.
Well, the thing is, I would say that for women especially, this is working with my audience, is give themselves permission to dream about everything they can have.
Yeah.
Because so many women have been trained to believe they can only ask for so much. And particularly, that's the thing about the bad boy versus the nice guy, is they feel like to be pious. I don't know if this is that alone. To be respectable, at least. Yeah. They have to have a list that's very safe and very nice. And the bad boy energy can't be in that list, because otherwise it makes them bad themselves. It's like, ladies, what if you can have it all? Yeah. What if you can have all the things that make a guy nice, to be respectable, to be strong, to be defending you and honoring you and take care of you, and has great fun in between the sheets too?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us, men and women, to be honest, not just women, have this belief structure that's like it's one or the other. You can't have both as one person.
Yes.
And we're saying here, yes, you can.
Yes, you can. And yes, you can be that. That's the other thing. Because I think if we're limiting what we're asking for, I think we feel limited in what we have to give.
Yes.
I really can't imagine it. Somebody who feels like a whole living, vital, juicy person is going to go, well, I could only have that. They would be more inclined to say, I want all of that. Right. So we're going to come back to, it always starts with you, right?
So that's,
people say, you always say that. I go, well, because it's the truth.
Like we're being transparent.
I learned that the hard way.
Haven't we just? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that is the reality of it, is to own what you want to have. I mean, I said before, it's like you want to be, we want to attract the amazing relationship. So then you start embodying what it is you want to be, so you can have what you want that matches that.
Yeah.
So to play with the badness behavior, so to speak, and we're going to qualify that a bit more carefully, you want to exhibit it too. So that doesn't mean breaking laws or hurting people, but having that flaunty, like seductive energy available. Now, I'm not saying you go around everywhere you go in life and all your dates doing that, because that may not work necessarily. But have any back pocket so you can bring it out when the moment is right, type thing. To have that, like, and you know when it's the right time, because you'll drop a little hint, and it's like having a drop of water in a desert. It's like it's a little drop, but the desert goes, what? Because any guy who knows his salt will go, okay, I'm interested now.
Yeah.
And I think what's the other way around too. And it's not as easy for us men to exhibit the same energy for women, in the sense when we're not used to it.
Yeah.
But I think women to play with that energetic that they have, because women have that spectrum fully available to them anytime they want.
Yeah.
That they can basically just like open a little gap and say peekaboo and then hide it again, you know. So they know, oh, okay.
Yeah. I think you've touched on such an important thing that women have lost. It's there inside of all of us, but that flirty, feminine, sensual, sexy, and sensual part where you're just like your body, you like being in your body, you're comfortable in your body, and you're comfortable showing somebody with little peeks how you feel about your body, and what fun it would be if they got a chance to earn the right to be with you and your body. And
earn the right, absolutely, yes.
Yes, absolutely. Because that's a man's job. And
this
that's
is permission. This is permission. Absolutely.
Yes. And that's the thing so the thing that's going to connect the bad boy and the nice man is masculinity. That's the thing for me. That if he is, so I'm talking about how it's important for women to be in touch with their femininity, that men have to be completely solid in their foundation of, I'm a man. So I don't have to overpower women. I can be the protector. I know I have the wherewithal to do that. I know I can go out and earn a good living. And I know that I deserve a woman that has all the things that I'm looking for. And when you come with that kind of energy and self-confidence, and you both are feeling that, that is unstoppable.
It's so true. And but it's also, and this is an interesting, because after having the Me Too conversation 2 or 3 years ago, there is an understanding that has to be about permission earned and permission granted, so that the man can be this bold, courageous, masculine man, taking the woman in his arms and taking her. Once the permission's been earned and given.
Yes.
Because otherwise it becomes like you can't, because we cannot assume anything anymore. We never could have before, but men did. Now we know better, hopefully.
Yeah.
So it's having that charge of sexual tension and that bad behavior within the framework of going, okay, we're agreeing to this. This is okay. We have understanding. We're having fun. Okay, let's have some fun now, because it's almost like it's kind of getting on the roller coasters. Like you want to make sure you've actually got the ticket in your hand before you get on.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it.
Because it is. I mean, you don't just crash it. You don't just do it, because otherwise, like, it's not fair or respectful.
No. And as much as women sometimes even say out loud they think they want that, they don't really want to be scared.
Right.
There's that fine line that if you're going to overpower us, it's with our permission and our knowledge. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, you'd prefer it be verbalized, but that you've reached an agreement of, okay, you can ravish me now. That would be super fun. Come up behind me and just go have at it. And it's that we've gone through the motions where, I'm going to use the same word again, that you have earned it. You've earned it and you've gotten permission. Because it makes me feel even more empowered, and it makes me even more relaxed.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, which are two really important things for women, and especially in their sexuality.
Right.
And on that note, We'll take a break and come back and talk more about sex, because we know we like talking about sex.
We do? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we're in red today, so we're hot today.
Yes. See you in a minute.
Okay.
And we're back.
And we're back with Let's Talk About Dating. And we're talking about the enticement of bad behavior. Both men and women.
And sex.
And sex. Definitely about sex.
Yes.
Well, because in this atmosphere, as you brought up early in our conversation today, it's a lot of, I'd say it's more than 50% the reason that women say they're attracted to bad men, because of the sexual tension and the promise of some fun, adventuresome sexual thing. And it's also because if we're not feeling our feminine side, we think we have to have this uber perceived masculine man, which is what that bad boy image looks like, this height of masculinity. And when I think of masculine, I don't think of a bad boy. I don't. I think of fun and, a good time, but not somebody I want to help support me emotionally, mentally, physically, monetarily. They're not usually the right kind of people for that at all.
They're not. And to qualify that even more deeply, first of all, with recent conversations with the freeway traffic coming through.
See how big she's getting? I know, she's twice as big.
Yeah, she's grown so fast and curious as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I? Oh, yes.
So sorry. Well, I won't even go there.
It's the feminine doing its thing, distraction. Yeah. But part of this challenging is that women who want the bad boy treatment at the same time are dealing with the Me Too experience. There's this risk of boundaries and safety that women have really had disrupted through what's going on with society, which is one of the things to do with. The second part is the bad boy isn't masculine. I want to make this very transparent. The bad boy is full on machoism.
Yep. And
machoism and masculinity, I've talked about before, is very different. And which one is when I talk about where I say the term toxic masculinity is inaccurate and doesn't fit. It's toxic machoism.
Yes.
Masculinity is not toxic because masculinity is pure, and when it's expressed, it is recognizable. Yes. And as you said, it is a man who basically gets you, who has space to hold your feelings and not be overrun by them, but has the chance to be strong, but also playful and can dive deep into his emotional expression and have fun with you.
Yes.
The bad boy is like almost like it's like a one note song. He's like, he has one thing that's focusing on, and it's all about selfishness. And so you might enjoy being used to a point, but at some point you're going to go, this is what I want. But he won't stop doing what he's doing to take his way to get what he wants.
Yeah.
And you end up at the end of it, oftentimes regretting you made the choice in the first place. So understanding how a healthy relationship can be as more fun and enticing than a bad behavior can be.
Yes.
For many women and for many men, I mean, let me put it on the table. For many women, they haven't discovered that it's okay to have a healthy relationship with a man because they've had so much challenge in the past for various reasons. And most men they've been dating or been looking for have been very boring, plain Jane style or plain John style. There haven't been anything exciting. And then men on the other side, we've been in the place where either we've been scared to cross the line because of what's been portrayed to us, and we respect women too much to endanger them, because that's the wiring, that's my wiring, is that there's got to be permission all the way, because I know from female friends of mine and from clients how much they've been wounded in the past by men who didn't respect them.
Yeah.
So we're weaving through a new path in a way, which has got bad behavior, but it's only when it's permission granted to do, like we said earlier. And that's really an interesting place we're in nowadays for us men to, because, the statistics are scary. What happened, women who've been sexually assaulted or been raped, how many, 1 in 4 or whatever it's been, the numbers are so sickening, at least for me, that to do anything that borders on that to a woman would destroy me to do that. It wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. So finding a way to have both that dance and sensuality of that bad behavior, but within the framework of a healthy, safe, and sacred relationship is the goal, I would suggest.
Oh, so much. And I love that you've shown such an important distinction between the macho part of man that seems to be very enticing to women versus the masculine part of men, which speaks to our heart.
Right.
I think the macho part is so surface. It's so surface, the reaction that we have as a female, that it's exciting and gets our blood going and we get juicy, and it's like having dessert or maybe hors d'oeuvres, but it's certainly not a healthy meal. It's not nourishing. There's nothing nourishing about it. It's just fun. It's fleeting fun.
Yeah.
Where if you find a man that's really clear about being masculine, caring about a woman's feelings, caring about our perception of you, and still very clear about, we're not going to push you around, we're not going to dishonor you,
right?
Which is what a nice guy will let a bad behavior woman do.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So there's the dance for both sides of when you are completely in your masculine and I'm completely in my feminine, we're not attracted to a purely bad person, bad behavior person. It's not attractive anymore, because we've gone through our phases where we've been attracted to those people. And I think, it's because my emotional side was so immature.
Pretty much, yeah. In fact, a couple of things I'll just speak to on that. Just to delineate for anybody who's not seen our shows before and talk about masculine versus macho. The way to simply define it is that machoism is neck up. It's ego-driven mindset, no heart opening, no connection. It's all just like, my way, the highway. I don't care about anybody else. I can take what I want and leave. Which for some women, maybe it resonates for something when they were younger, when they didn't get what they wanted. So that's one part of it. Whereas the masculine man is someone who's got an open heart, but real strong clarity, direction, purpose. His spine is straight, which is very sexy when women start to tap into what it really is about for them.
Yeah.
And the other part also is that one thing I'm grateful for and I've been aware of is that women have all of it inside. The range from the wench to the diva to all the things in between.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, for a lot of women, is giving themselves permission to express anything in that spectrum and to find a man they can trust to be able to hold it all and enjoy all of it, so she can be safe and free to be a full range, and he will happily be there wherever she is.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing, is that women hadn't explored that other side of themselves, the more sexy side of themselves, that when they discovered that there were men out there that would like it and encourage it and want to be with them because of that, it's why we went. And it was really exciting. I mean, I did it. It was really exciting in the beginning. And then the two things that happen is either we just don't feel filled up or we fall in love. And they're not the people to fall in love with because there's no substance behind it. There's no staying power. There's no future. And then the hard thing that happens often for women is, well, then all men are bad. No. Or I must be completely broken. There must be something completely wrong with me that I don't attract a good guy, that I only attract bad guys. Well, it's not that you're attracting them. It's that you're attracted to them. There's the whole range out there. There's this whole buffet. And if you find that the same kind of person is showing up, it's you attracting them. And it's not that you're broken. It's that you are unknowledgeable about how to do it another way. And that's what you and I do. We educate. You just need to be more educated. Yeah, that's all it is.
Well, it's education, and also it's rewiring beliefs that have been maybe inaccurately wired in the first place. If it's in the fuse, it works better that way. You know, fix that. Yeah.
And boy, I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday about how when people finally come back and they say, oh my gosh, dating's fun now. I didn't know it could be fun. I said, in the beginning, they're just maybe going to take a little tiny step. That's all it's going to be. So what could the little tiny step be? And then you just have to trust. You go on faith. I mean, that's what I had to do in the beginning all by my little self. And now I get to teach people as you do. Because then when you finally you go do it and you're like, oh, I had a different result. Oh, I like this result better. I didn't even know I could have this result. I didn't even know I could act this way, talk this way, receive this way. And so then they'll come back and go, okay, I know it's still not going to be easy, but what's the next thing? And isn't that when we both just, my heart just is so happy. Yeah. So the same thing can happen when you're like, oh my gosh, I've now experienced sex like I've never had before, but it wasn't with a substantial, well, you could still have that. Let's figure out how to do it a different way to find the man that would. So then there's the men that would be, oh no, never, I would never do that. Well, you don't want them either.
Right.
So you find this masculine man in the middle that's like the pyramid. He's like the peak of it. And you go, yeah, when you've done the work and he's done the work, then that's the kind of man you want. But you have to feel like you deserve it. You have to feel like, as you said, it has to be okay to have all these things in your life. And you don't even know what to ask for without us asking the questions often.
It's funny. I'm just reflecting on some of my dates over the last several months that I've done for a while, but the dates that went on, and noticing how some of the women, well, I think it's all the women, no, most of the women, to be clear, that went out with, there's only a few. The way they present themselves was very singular. It wasn't. They weren't allowing themselves to enjoy being fully present. Very businesslike, or it was very questioning. I'm just comparing the notes of the ones I was with, and it's like, yeah, and so it wasn't able to have a really full conversation. So it was from my side of things, like I wasn't interested in going any further because there was nothing else beyond the, oh, okay, we can talk. Yeah. Now what? And I don't mean that you got to be sexy right up front, but having the ability to speak to have the spectrum fully available, as I mentioned earlier, how women have the full range available to themselves, to be available in like all areas, to let what's natural come through. Again, what's natural, not forced or pushed, but what was resident comes through. Because the more you express and more make available who you are in meeting somebody, the more clear it's going to be if they fit that or don't. That's one thing. And two, and secondly, you might discover the man you're with is a lot more than you thought he was, because he can match you move for move and all the things you're presenting. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of fun when you get to that point. Because I definitely know the women I was going out with, except for the one I liked a lot, which we talked about before. The other ones are definitely like, I don't have to move anywhere, like energetically, so to speak. Like I can play this note all day and it's boring for me.
And now we know why you like her a lot.
That one, yes.
Because she has the full spectrum. And I have found that same thing with the men that I've gone out with recently, that they're so reserved in the way that they're expressing themselves. And I do get that it's really a challenge to be a man right now. You know, you're afraid about what to say and what to do, and you don't want to offend us, and who knows, the kind of dates that you've had before. And it's the thing that was so enticing about my late husband is that he was so comfortable, even though he told me later he was really nervous and very excited to meet me and thought I was beautiful and sexy. I would never have known it. I would never have known it. He was so present in his masculinity. It just gave me permission to be even more feminine. Where when somebody's feeling cautious, I'm like, well, it makes me feel more cautious. It makes me feel like, am I going to be too much for you? Yeah.
And that's where communication is key as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the things we need to improve as men is not just talk about our work and our successes or our trophies, but speak about what we want, what we're really about, and also what we enjoy. Because when a woman presents things to us and we're like, more of that, please.
Yeah.
She knows, okay, So there's room for both partners to grow in the room to have more fun, more joy, and more enticement, to use the title, in our relationships and even in our dating.
Yeah.
Because you'll know if that fits or not pretty quickly. It's the wonderful thing about expressing your full spectrum, ladies. If a man can't handle it, you'll know right away.
Yes.
So you don't have to waste any more time with that person.
So there you are, back at figuring out who you are, blossoming into your full masculine or feminine self, and then learning how to share it in a way that feels good to you and could be, you're going to see how receptive the other person is about it. Because that's the first line of seeing if you have a connection with someone. It's not just because physically you think they're fabulous looking or you feel all this chemistry with them. It's so not enough. It's not even close to enough. And I think that more people are learning that, but they still don't know what to do differently. They now figured out all the things that they don't want to do, but they don't understand what things they could be doing. That would be way more satisfying.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah, it's so true. Boy, well, I think with this talk, we're changing the whole of the way people date, I think.
I agree.
Because this, from my experience, it doesn't seem to be the natural way we do things. And yet it's so much more available to us when we say, what if you were just being, as I said at the beginning, what if you're being your true self and somebody else goes, I like that.
Yep.
What's possible then?
Yeah. I know. It's been fun to have people say, how many times they'll say, I never looked at it like that. I never thought about it like that. I never knew that was an option. It's not that they turn the option down. They don't even realize it's a possibility. And that is very exciting for both them and me, that I could share it with them. And they're like, oh, I want to do that. Even though it might feel a little scary. And the other thing, they go, it's so out of my comfort zone. I don't even understand it. Okay, that's understandable. If you've never, how do you choose between different kind of cars or different kind of houses or different kind of food if you haven't at least looked at it, learned about it, tried it? And that's the thing that you and I do when we keep saying, but have you thought about it this way? If what you're doing is working, keep it up. If it's not, which is maybe why you're listening to our podcast, then have a conversation with us, because we have so many options that you could try something differently. And then they'll come back and they'll go, oh, it works. I know, because I've done it myself.
Right. And the other part is also, just as the up level as well, is that for a lot of us, what this lesson is about is how to stop putting on an act to pretend to be something you're not when you want to date. Because so many of us do that, men and women. This is not sex. It's not, neither side is at fault, is off the hook here. We're both doing it. And so we present our best behavior, so to speak, without letting people see who we really are, which is not going to be very attractive, because that's not who you really are.
Yeah.
So part of what we're teaching, as to let you know the quick way, is to be yourself, to be natural, to be real.
And the more relaxed you are and the more fun you're having, the easier it is to be yourself. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And the easier it is to speak your truth. So if something's not working, you can be clear about that. Yeah. The challenge is for a lot of people, because they're putting such an act, to put up their hand and go, excuse me a second. They're not able to do that. Whereas if you're being yourself, you can just go, hang on a second, this isn't lining up. Let's go this way. Or let's reset.
I
Because the
know.
other part is, I know there's a lot of people having fear about doing on dates and how they're going to, somebody who's unknown, what they're going to be like. And to be able to be yourself, where you can actually say, well, hold on a second, that's not this, let's, or, change it, whatever you need to do. It's easier to move and adjust accordingly because you're being natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost puts you in a box where you can't never get out of it, and you end up going down a path. You're wondering, why did I go down this path? Like, because you didn't let yourself be real.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is where the real work begins.
Yeah. It is such a key to unlocking successful dating.
Yeah.
Because you think when you're putting on that the other person's going to like you more, because maybe that's how you were trained as a kid. Lots of us were.
Yeah.
And the more real you are, the more potential the right person's going to like you. The wrong person's not going to, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Because I used to try to be what I thought the person would like, even if I wasn't sure if I liked them. And oh my gosh, that's exhausting.
I mean, to genuflect and to sort of contort yourself to be something that you think the other person's going to like, when you don't even know who that person is, how on earth are you going to be able to figure that one out?
I know.
That's why you said it's so true. It's like being yourself will attract the right person and will repel the wrong person. That's ideal. So yeah, take notes. These things make sense.
And they work.
Yes.
We know they work. They work for us. They work for our clients. So figuring out who you are, that's really essential. And what you really need and want, then go be that person and see if the other person is who you're looking for. And you might not know the first time. I didn't know the first time. I've really never known the first time when I went out with, since I changed my way of not just going with chemistry, that it took a few times to really make a decision about yes or no. And I think it's sad how many people give up, but I think partly it's that they aren't really clear about what they need and want, and they don't really understand that they're worth taking longer to get to know somebody and to keep seeing, how do I feel with them each time? If I'm in a different kind of mood, how am I affected by that? It's because if you're going to ultimately be with somebody forever, you do need to see how you feel with them in different moods and different atmospheres. And you can't do that if you just say, oh no, I don't like them on the first date.
Right. And the other part of this, to, again, make it even easier, is the more you are enjoying who you are and enjoying yourself being real when you're out dating, you actually find yourself enjoying yourself regardless of what the other person does.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't show up, you're fine. If they show up and they're not the right person, they're fine. If they show up and they are the perfect person, even more fine.
Yeah.
But it's that recognition that you get to enjoy yourself, being yourself whilst you're out there doing it anyway. Yeah. It's so much more fun.
It's so much more fun. And it's so much more relaxing. You don't have to, it's like lying, where you have to remember what the truth is. You don't want to be lying about yourself and who you are. Yeah.
No.
And it's tempting. It's really tempting, but it's so detrimental. And so getting lost in someone just because they have bad behavior, because you feel like they're filling up something that's empty in you or lacking in you, then okay, you look at it and go, what it is that's lacking and how can I fill it up myself? How can I fulfill this on my own, that I don't need another person to fill this, and I'll stop being attracted to somebody who has bad behavior? I think you froze. That's never happened before.
No, we're back.
Oh, good.
You still hear me, can't you?
Yeah. Oh, now I can even see you moving. That was really weird. I was like, I think he froze.
Signal issues, I don't know. Anyway, so to finish up the point, and then we're going to wrap up this moment, is this choice we're talking about here. I mean, as much as we start at the beginning about how you're being attracted to bad behavior and how it entices you, is what if being natural entices you? And you get to enjoy all of yourself, all behavior, good, bad, and indifferent, so to speak, where it's all within the goodness of who you are. And you're playing on the edge of whatever sensuality you want to bring in as well to everything else you do. And then have fun dating. I mean, all of that sounds like amazing, good stuff.
And it's certainly one of the things that I kept saying as I was getting to know my late husband was, I continue to get to be myself. I never feel like I have to be different than me.
Yeah.
Whoever I was, I would just bring it that time. And it was interesting because he'd never experienced that before. And he talked about it a couple of times about it was so unfamiliar to him and that it encouraged him to be even more of his self.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to see, do I like who they really are? And do I like that I can feel me, all of me, whoever I am, all the different facets of me? Because we talked about how we all have all these different facets. And can I say, gosh, I'm having a bad day today and I just need encouragement? Or, wow, I'm really excited about this. Or, wow, I've been thinking about what you've been doing and tell me all about it. And that you don't feel like there's taboo subjects and taboo way of feeling. That's the best.
Now, far from it, it's like, I think for me personally, I'm sure for most other men, a woman who has that many expressions and facets of themselves. I mean, secrets like we get to be with like 300 women in one woman, you know. It's kind of like a fantasy come true for us. One woman, so many aspects and presentations, we get to enjoy all of it. And that's like, yes, please.
Sounds good to me. And it's, interesting because men in their DNA are driven to be with a bunch of women, and how nice if you can find all of that in one package.
I believe it's possible.
and there's certainly a tiny group of women that are incapable. Most women are very capable of having all these facets and are dying to have somebody recognize them. But what I find out is we need to recognize them first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Acknowledge them, think they're wonderful, think that it's okay to have all these feelings. It's okay to talk about our feelings, express our feelings, be our feelings, because
appreciate them too.
Yes, men find it interesting and amazing and fascinating, even if they don't understand all of them. You really like it. I find it amazing that you like all these parts of us. You just think, isn't she interesting? Wow, look at all that stuff about her. And we think you're not gonna, because the bad boys didn't. They wanted such a limited experience. But when you get to this masculine place, it's been fun to see how many men go, I think it's hot.
Gets my vote.
See? So I want women to hear this, and I want men to hear this, that if this is not what you're experiencing, it's out there. It is so out there, and it is available to everybody. Absolutely. It is. You're not limited that you can only have hamburgers every day. You can have variety every day in one person, really, yes, if they have explored and acknowledged and owned all these parts of themselves.
Yeah, which means basically you've done the work. And that means either finding the teachings that work for you or finding someone to work with like us to really help you navigate that place, to discover just how amazing you really are. Oh. And then attracting somebody who sees that amazingness themselves.
And likes it.
Yes.
That's the best part. I mean, it was so, people kept saying to me, because my late husband had been married twice before, that they'd never seen him act this way, be this happy. And he wasn't unhappy in his first marriage at all. His second marriage was really hard. But to see being with me, what it did for him and what it did for me, because I'd never been with anybody like him in all these ways. I mean, we talked about all the physical ways that were completely different than anything I'd ever imagined. And the packaging held all this amazing inside stuff too that I'd never experienced. It was pretty remarkable. So I'm looking for that same feeling, not the same person at all, but the same feeling where I think there's nothing about me I can't be with this person.
Right. That's what both people win. Everybody wins, and joy and love abounds. It's on my list too.
I think it's a really important thing to have on people's lists, and for them to know they can have it. Because I think sadly, sometimes people write stuff down and they think, oh, I really can't have it, but I'll write it down anyway. Where you talked earlier about you could have everything. Yeah,
absolutely.
There's nothing you can't have. There's nothing you can't have. You have to be willing to give it to yourself first. You can't just wait for the other person to give it to you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Start now, don't wait.
Yeah, start working on yourself. It's funny, you keep saying do the work, I say do the work, and people don't always understand what that means, I think.
Yeah, that's true. But the recognition is that it's taking one step at a time to get closer to who you really are. It's almost like pulling down the shutters over the windows so you see yourself more clearly. So in a way, doing the work isn't like transforming life in a negative way. It's about revealing yourself to yourself. So you go, oh, that's who I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you would like to breathe easier in your relationship, Barry and I can help with that.
Yes,
indeed.
So
the way to get a hold of me is through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. And you click on what's holding you back from love, and you can have a complimentary conversation with me. You can also sign up for my biweekly newsletter through my website. You can send me a private email through Christine@theperfectcatch. And you can reach me and read all of my articles and see my videos with and without Barry's cute face with me on Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and YouTube and
Twitter.
See, I did forget one this time.
And
Instagram. See, I'm so happy you're here to look out for me. And tell people how they can get a hold of you too, Barry, please.
So if you want to have a conversation to help you reveal who you really are to yourself, you can go to my website, which is barryselby.com. There's also, if you do opt in, there's an invitation to join my weekly newsletter, because I do a weekly newsletter. And to find out what I offer. I've got a lot of things on my site you can check out. I finally got my site fixed, and now the navigation works on the mobile as well as on my web desktop. Somebody did me a favor and fixed that for me, which I'm grateful for. So again, you can email me at barry@barryselby.com. You can also check me out on social media. On Facebook, it's Barry Selby, the author, but it's Barry Selby on Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube, and on Clubhouse. And then on Instagram, it's the real Barry Selby, which actually I've become more active on thanks to Clubhouse, because it doesn't tie to Facebook, it ties to Instagram. My Instagram visibility is much more visible and more active than it's ever been. So go to the real Barry Selby on Instagram. You can follow me there and reach out, get some help. We're both here to inspire, serve, and support you in being who you really are.
Yeah, so well put. And we'll be talking about more interesting subjects next week on Let's Talk About Dating at 1 o'clock Eastern and 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. I'm going to the East Coast soon, so I'm all confused. And we look forward to you joining us and hopefully learning some new ways to think about dating.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.